Hello and welcome to This Day with BJ Arnett. Today is about you, all about you. The name of the organization that we're going to be talking about today is called Self-Discovery. Why is it important? Well, you'll find out more in just a moment when you meet my guest, Vanessa Abram. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Near and dear to my heart is the mental health of anyone I deal with. I'm real in tune to when someone is hurting. Not because I'm nosy, but because I can identify something that was once in me. When you take a look at why mental health is so important, it really makes you realize that it's not what you thought it was. It's not the person on the street. It's not a story that you hear on television. Mental health issues come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Yes.
Talk to us about your journey and why this is so important to you.
Absolutely. Mental health, I'm learning that by way of my experience as a child, having some depression from dysfunctional family origin and carrying it over to my adulthood. And when my mother passed in 2010 is when I'd had several attempts, but I attempted and I woke up in the hospital a couple days later and they said that I was a miracle. And I was really, really angry at that point because I was just tired and in so much pain. Had a lot of, I was in a massive storm in my life at that time. And shortly thereafter, took my meds, seeing therapy, and I stayed in that for maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. And then to fast forward up into just 24, 25 months ago, my brother passed away, my older brother, which was a veteran, passed away by way of suicide. So that has turned my life upside down. And I have to say it's only through the grace of God that I'm still here today, because there is a difference in my mother passing from natural causes, but then having a sibling to pass by way of suicide.
As you talked about your own personal issues and then seeing your brother pass of suicide, your mother passed first, but of natural causes.
Yeah.
Then your brother, who is a veteran, passes not because it was his time, as people would say, but because there was mental illness or depression that led him to suicide. Did you see signs?
Absolutely, absolutely. I did my due diligence in helping him. He lived with me for a little bit in Indiana. I'm from actually Gary, Indiana, and he lived with me, and I did my due diligence in trying to get him help. And you know, my brother came back. I'll never forget when my mother said he came back from Saudi. He fought in Afghanistan in that war, and my mother said he was just never the same. And he and I would have conversations, and he would just cry, telling me about different experiences. And I'm
Things
like,
that he saw.
yes, and things that he had to do. So I know my brother was hurting, and I actually just really accepted his death on my tour last year towards the end. But it's a very difficult journey because now I'm in the mode of missing him and needing to speak with him. He was one of my closest, well, the closest sibling. It's 5 of us. I'm the youngest. And he was the one that I can really identify with, and we had a special bond. So it's like I need him right now to talk to him. I've never not talked to him this long in my life. So I'm learning and finding and praying and pushing and persevering my way through this pain by way of getting out and touring the nation and going internationally, touring, speaking about the importance of mental health, letting people see that mental health has no face.
It doesn't.
No one's exempt.
No age, no face, no color, no size, no nothing.
No one's exempt.
No one is exempt. As you go around the country, this is going to sound hard, but just pray is not the answer. And sometimes you hear people say, oh, baby, just pray. But there's an action that has to occur in your life in order for pain to be revealed and then eliminated. As you've gone around the country, what have you heard from people that have been there testimony, if you will, to stepping out of mental illness, depression, any form of mental illness.
And before I talk about around the country, let's talk about my family,
Okay.
inside of my own
On your
family.
house.
Yeah, in my house and in my siblings in that unit where, you know, I have an older brother that was attempting to take his life last year, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. So, you know, I'm learning since my mother's passed. I still have my father here. He's the patriarch of the family, and he's the last one here that I can ask questions about certain aspects and people of the family, and why was this person doing this? Why was this person? Why were you an alcoholic for so long? You know, he hasn't had a drink for 38 years now. But what was it about you that made you drink? So you were depressed too, and she was depressed, and so on and so forth. So I'm like, so nothing is. This is just not me. It's hereditary. So it's just a matter of us, and what I'm learning from traveling around, and even in my household with my husband, when I attempted, my husband had not accepted the depression at all, and he actually just accepted last year and dealing with his own illnesses. And the thing of it is people are, one, ashamed. They are ashamed of what the next person will say, think, or do if they were to come out and say, hey, I have bipolar, hey, I have depression. And then secondly, they are afraid of the medications and what the medications, from all of the horror stories that people will hear or will say about the medications. And then lastly, just because of the stigma. And all of that actually goes under the stigma. They're just afraid to speak out because of what people may think, say, or do, and just they would rather suffer in silence to people please instead of getting that help that they need so that they can become better.
When you talk to 5 people, one of them will say, I or someone close to my family circle suffers from mental illness. It is a mushrooming issue that is plaguing Americans every day. It used to be that people would say, going back to your brother who was a veteran, that people would say, oh, he went to the service and he, as your mother said, he didn't come back the same. There's no way that you could come back the same after seeing all the things that you see. But there is that nucleus called family that should be able to identify there is a shift and to be able to circle around and say, how do we as a family deal with that? But if all of the family is in pain and don't know how to alleviate their own pain, how in the world can we circle around you if we haven't identified or admitted to the pain that we have ourselves? There's an issue there. There's something innately wrong with the fact in this country that we are afraid to say, hey, I hurt. Can you help me?
And you know, I think it stems from our childhood. When we cry or when we trip and fall, get up, you're okay, scrape it off, stop crying, get it together, or you're going to, I mean, I think it stems from our childhood. I mean, and remember, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And that has carried on even into my household until now. No, that's not happening. All my children are adults, and I welcome them to see a therapist. I was not a perfect mother, but I did the best I could with what I had
at the time. Thank you.
And since my mom has passed on, I've learned that too. She did the best she could with what she had. So it's just a matter of us saying, you know, and one of my taglines is, it's okay to hurt, but it's not okay to hurt and not get the help that you need.
And it's not okay to not get the help that you need or to stay in the pain.
Right.
Cry out, search out, reach out, but you cannot stay in the pain. You mentioned the upbringing of our children. One of the beauties of how God orchestrates a home is with a father and a mother. And the beauty of us standing in our individual lanes in what God has given us as wife and as husband and as mother and as father is to be able to demonstrate how to live out life. Daddy says, boy, mommy says, come here, let mama kiss it. You need both. You need both. But somewhere in this last, I would say, from the 1940s to now, when our lives got flipped and we had to put our hands away from raising our children and struggle to get everything done in workplace, did we lose the ability to be this joint effort, one soft, one hard, good cop, bad cop, might change back and forth, but somewhere that child needs not only the discipline, but the love that it takes to stand within the discipline.
I agree wholeheartedly.
We've got to take a look at our family structure. But first, as the father and the mother, we have to look at ourselves.
That's right. That's first. And say, I have a problem.
And say, I have a problem. If our husbands are not our best friend, it's because something happened in our communication that we missed that ultimate connect. So we got to get reconnected.
Right.
We got to get reconnected so that we can be this united front as parents.
Yes.
So it is all back to that home. It is all back to the individual and then the collective. When you take a look at the things that you're doing now, when you speak to other people, does it not help you?
It does. Actually, it heal people, hurt people, hurt people. And that is the truth. Each time I speak, I get some sort of healing. I'm learning about myself on this journey after, and I call it the aftermath. This is going to be a title in one of my books that I put out this year, The Aftermath, because the aftermath is just as difficult, just as painful as day one when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
So now I'm having to learn and unlearn what I've learned to get me to this point. But now I have to learn how to live the way God has me to live from this point forward, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, this is my purpose. I've never enjoyed anything in my life besides doing this, and I've had great jobs all my life, but this I thoroughly enjoy, but also it comes with a price, which is to carry my cross, and it's very painful. But I know I can do all things through Christ that gives me the strength to do so.
That's exactly right. You know, something to be said of staying in your lane. If this is what he's called you to do, he gives you the strength. And with that strength to handle it, he also gives you the wit, the will, and the way.
Yeah, amen.
And he gives that to you so that you might pull someone else out. He gives that to you so that your journey doesn't become someone else's journey.
Yes.
It's your testimony that will help someone else. Mental illness is not in every home, but it is in many. And the numbers are way too large.
Yeah. And I would have to say everyone has some degree of depression, whether it's a measure or small, or whether it's a grandiose where you have to be in the hospital. Everybody, nobody's exempt from that. Jesus, think of him when he was in the garden before he was...
As he cried out.
Yes.
As he cried out.
It's
that
just
moment.
we having to, and that's where self-discovery comes from. My organization is Self-Discovery, Pain, Positioning, and Purpose. That comes from knowing who you are not, but yet who you are becoming in the process of your pain. And who you are not, we are not our past, but that past is connected to our purpose.
And we've got to pull from the true reservoir in order to establish us in our reservoir.
That's true.
Because when Jesus was in the garden, that was that moment. But it was overcome with the moment of him knowing that he was the God of this generation and all.
Amen.
Woo! Vanessa! Hey, I hope you got it. We got it. God loves you. Bye-bye.